The 1960s were full of groovy beats, catchy tunes, and unforgettable bands. While icons like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones became legends, many other great groups faded into the background. In this video, we're revisiting 21 of the best 60s bands you might have forgotten. From rock to soul, pop to psychedelia, these forgotten gems showcase the creativity and fun of the era. Sit back, turn up the volume, and get ready for a blast from the past. You might just discover a new favorite. Let's dive in. The Peppermint Rainbow. The Peppermint Rainbow is a perfect example of a band with a brief but memorable run in the 1960s. Formed in 1967 under the name New York Times, the group started playing local gigs in the Mid-Atlantic region. Thanks to talent agent Alan White, they caught the attention of producer Paul Leka. Leka then signed them to Decca Records in 1968, prompting their name change to The Peppermint Rainbow. Their first single, Walking in Different Circles, backed with Pink Lemonade, failed to make an impact, but their second release, Will You Be Staying After Sunday, became a hit, peaking at number 32 on the U.S. Billboard Hot 100 and staying on the chart for 14 weeks. It also sold over 1 million copies, earning a gold disc. The song reached number 21 on the Cashbox Top 100 and number 19 in Canada, cementing their place in the sunshine pop scene. The group performed on TV shows like The Generation Gap, but struggled to follow up on their success. Their third single, Don't Wake Me Up in the Morning, Michael, reached number 54 on the Billboard Hot 100. After a few more releases, the band disbanded in 1970, leaving a cheerful legacy that captures the spirit of the late 60s. Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs. In the early 1960s, Domingo Sam the Sham Samudio had no idea his blend of quirky humor and garage rock would take the world by storm. Starting in Dallas in 1961, Sam formed a group called the Pharaohs, inspired by Yul Brynner's pharaoh costume in the Ten Commandments. After an early lineup dissolved, Sam joined Andy and the Night Riders in Louisiana. This eventually took on the tongue-in-cheek nickname Sam the Sham due to jokes about his vocal skills. By 1963, the group had become Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs, adding saxophonist Butch Gibson to their lineup. Their breakout came in late 1964 with Wooly Bully, a self-funded single later picked up by MGM Records. The song reportedly sold over 3 million copies, reached number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100, and stayed on the chart for 18 weeks. Despite later lineup changes and releases like Lil Red Riding Hood, which hit number 2 in 1966, the band's flashy costumes and novelty tunes cemented their legacy as garage rock trailblazers. While their act might not fly today, their infectious sound and party anthems remain timeless. Tracks like Wooly Bully still evoke the carefree spirit of 1960s rock, making Sam and his Pharaohs unforgettable. The Outsiders were an American rock band from Cleveland, Ohio, best known for their 1966 hit, Time Won't Let Me. Founded by guitarist Tom King, the group had deep roots in rhythm and blues and originally performed as the Starfires. Their debut single, written by King and his brother-in-law Chet Kelly, soared to number 5 on the U.S. charts and earned a gold disc. The song's success sparked nationwide tours, bringing their soulful, horn-infused rock sound to fans across the country. In 1966, the Outsiders enjoyed more chart success with 3 more singles. During their mid-60s heyday, they also released 4 albums. But their momentum slowed due to lineup changes and missed opportunities. Opportunities such as declining the track, Bend Me, Shape Me, which became a major hit for the American breed. By 1970, the group disbanded after struggling to replicate their early triumphs. Despite these challenges, the Outsiders' influence endured. Known for blending Mersey rock and Motown vibes, they inspired acts like the Buckinghams and Chicago. The band reformed multiple times with varying members, performing as recently as 2011. King passed away in 2011, and lead singer Sonny Gerasi died in 2017, but their legacy lives on in the timeless energy of Time Won't Let Me. The Buckinghams. The Buckinghams, a Chicago-based band formed in 1965, became one of the defining acts of the 1960s pop scene. Originally known as the Pulsations, the group got their big break by winning a Battle of the Bands competition on the Chicago TV show All Time Hits. They were encouraged to adopt a British-inspired name during the British invasion craze. So they settled on the Buckinghams. This was a nod to Chicago's own Buckingham Fountain. The band's early music consisted mostly of covers, but their fortunes changed with the release of their first original hit, Kind of a Drag, in 1966. Written by Jim Holvey, the song topped the Billboard charts, selling over 1 million copies and earning a gold disc. This success led to a contract with Columbia Records and a string of hits, including Don't You Care, Mercy, 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 and Susan. Known for their signature brass rock sound, the Buckinghams became TV favorites. They appeared on The Ed Sullivan Show and American Bandstand. However, by 1968, internal struggles and changes in their lineup led to a decline in popularity. After disbanding in 1970, the group reunited in 1980 for a Chicago Fest performance. Despite ups and downs, the Buckinghams remained celebrated for their contributions to 1960s pop music. They even earned spots in the Iowa and Illinois Rock and Roll Halls of Fame. The McCoys. The McCoys might not be a household name today, but their journey from garage band fame to shaping rock history is worth a closer look. Formed by high schoolers in Union City, Indiana, the band initially went by names like the Rick Z Combo and Rick and the Raiders. Led by guitarist and vocalist Rick Zeringer, later Rick Derringer, his brother Randy on drums, and bassist Dennis Kelly, they created a sound that mixed rock with bubblegum pop. This made them teen favorites. The band gained nationwide fame with their 1965 hit Hang On Sloopy, a song that skyrocketed to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It is often associated with Ohio State athletics and has been recognized as the official rock song of Ohio. Other hits included covers of Fever and Richie Valens's Come On Let's Go, but the group struggled to shake their bubblegum pop label. In the late 60s, the McCoys shifted towards psychedelic rock, but failed to find commercial success. However, their story didn't end there. Rick Derringer went on to become a guitar legend, working with Johnny and Edgar Winter, Steely Dan, and even Cyndi Lauper. While the McCoys faded from the spotlight, their music and influence left a lasting impression. Jimmy Gilmer and the Fireballs. Jimmy Gilmer and the Fireballs were a trailblazing American rock and roll band that rose to fame in the late 1950s and early 1960s. Formed in Raton, New Mexico in 1957, the original lineup included George Tomsko, lead guitar, Chuck Tharp, vocals, Stan Lark, bass, Eric Budd, drums, and Dan Trammell, rhythm guitar. The group got their start as an instrumental band, recording at Norman Petty's studio in Clovis, New Mexico. Their name was inspired by a standout performance of Great Balls of Fire at a school talent contest. The band's early hits, like Torquay and Bulldog, showcased Tomsko's innovative guitar work. By the 1960s, Jimmy Gilmer joined as lead vocalist, bringing a new energy. Their biggest success came in 1963 with Sugar Shack, a chart-topping single that held the #1 spot on Billboard for 5 weeks and became the top song of the year. They followed this with the hit Daisy Pedal Pickin', which peaked at #15 in 1964. Though the British invasion posed challenges, the Fireballs made a final chart splash with Bottle of Wine in 1967. After disbanding in 1969, they reunited for performances in later years, leaving a lasting legacy in rock history. The Knickerbockers. The Knickerbockers were a garage rock group from Bergenfield, New Jersey, formed in 1962. Named after Knickerbocker Road, a nearby local landmark, the band first played with a rotating lineup until 1964. This was when Buddy Randell joined as the lead vocalist and saxophonist. Randell, known for his earlier hit with Short Shorts as part of the Royal Teens, brought a touch of star power to the group. The band found their classic lineup with Randell, brothers Bo and John Charles, and drummer Jimmy Walker. After being discovered by producer Jerry Fuller at a gig in Albany, New York, they signed with Challenge Records. In 1965, they struck gold with their Beatles-inspired hit Lies, a song so convincingly similar in style that some thought it was a Beatles track. It climbed to number 20 on the Billboard pop charts. The song showcased their knack for catchy harmonies and tight instrumentation. Despite their success, the band faced challenges. Their follow-up single, One Track Mind, was a modest hit, peaking at number 45 due to poor distribution. Over time, lineup changes and label issues led to their decline. But their legacy lives on in compilations like Nuggets, original artifacts from the first psychedelic era. The Knickerbockers remain a shining example of garage rock's potential to reach mainstream audiences. The Flying Machine. Have you ever hummed along to the cheerful hit, Smile a Little Smile for Me? This catchy tune was the claim to fame for The Flying Machine, a British bubblegum pop band that left a short but sweet mark on music history. The Flying Machine was formed in 1969 as a new iteration of Pinkerton's Assorted Colors. This was a British band that had earlier success with the UK hit Mirror Mirror in 1966. Key members from Pinkerton's, Tony Newman, Sam Kempe, and Stuart Coleman, teamed up with Steve Jones and Paul Wilkinson to create this new group. With Newman stepping in as the lead vocalist, they adopted the name The Flying Machine. Their biggest success came with Smile a Little Smile for Me. This song peaked at number 5 on the US Billboard Hot 100 and number 6 on the Adult Contemporary chart in 1969. The song's upbeat melody and heartfelt lyrics resonated with audiences, selling over 1 million copies and earning a gold disc from the RIAA. Despite their early success, follow-up singles like Baby Make It Soon and The Devil Has Possession of Your Mind couldn't replicate the magic. The band eventually disbanded, leaving Smile a Little Smile for Me as their enduring legacy in pop history. The Four Pennies. The Four Pennies, a British pop band, made their mark on the 1960s music scene with heartfelt ballads and a unique sound. Formed in 1963, their name was chosen for commercial appeal and inspired by Penny Street in Blackburn, where they often met. The band's first single, Do You Want Me To, reached number 47 on the UK charts in 1964. Yet their breakthrough came later that year with the ballad Juliet. Originally intended as a B-side, the song soared to number 1 on the UK singles chart. This makes it the only UK group's number 1 hit of 1964 that didn't chart in the US. The Four Pennies continued their success with hits like I Found Out the Hard Way and a cover of Lead Belly's Black Girl, but their momentum slowed by 1965 when lead guitarist Fryer left, though he later returned. The band's final charting single was Until It's Time for You to Go in 1966. They dissolved the same year. This left behind a legacy defined by the timeless charm of Juliet and their brief but memorable contribution to 1960s music. T-Bones. The T-Bones were an American band active from 1963 to 1966, best known for their catchy hit No Matter What Shape Your Stomach's In. This song became a chart-topping success in 1966. The band's recordings were unique because they were mostly done by session musicians from The Wrecking Crew. The Wrecking Crew was a group of talented musicians who played on countless hits in the 60s. The T-Bones' hit song, based on a melody from an Alka-Seltzer commercial, reached number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. Following the success of the single, Liberty Records quickly put together an album under the same name. But the Wrecking Crew musicians didn't tour with the band, as they were busy with other sessions in Los Angeles. Instead, Liberty created a public T-Bones group featuring Judd Hamilton, Dan Hamilton, Joe Frank Carollo, Tommy Reynolds, and Gene Pello. Interestingly, the public T-Bones didn't play on the hit single or their next album, Sippin' and Chippin'. They did, however, record the band's final album, Everyone's Gone to the Moon and Other Trips. After the T-Bones split, Dan Hamilton, Joe Frank Carollo, and Tommy Reynolds went on to form the soft rock trio Hamilton, Joe Frank, and Reynolds. Although short-lived, the T-Bones' music left a lasting impression on the 60s music scene. Manfred Mann. Manfred Mann was a popular English blues rock band that formed in London in 1962. Named after their keyboardist, Manfred Mann, the group gained fame in the 1960s with a string of hits. These hits included 3 number 1 songs in the UK, Do Wah Diddy Diddy, 1964, Pretty Flamingo, 1966, and The Mighty Quinn, 1968, written by Bob Dylan. The band's sound mixed jazz, blues, and rock influences, and they became known for their catchy pop songs and unique style. The original lineup included Manfred Mann, drummer Mike Hugg, guitarist Mike Vickers, bassist Dave Richmond, and lead singer Paul Jones. They first found success with their hit 5-4-3-2-1 in 1964, which gained popularity thanks to television appearances. Over the next few years, the band's sound evolved from jazz-infused blues to a more pop-oriented style. They even covered songs by artists like the Shirelles and Bob Dylan. By 1966, Paul Jones left the band and was replaced by Mike Diabo. This change marked the band's shift to a more pop-oriented direction with hits like Ha Ha Said the Clown. Despite their success, the band split in 1969 due to creative differences. Later, Manfred Mann formed Manfred Mann's Earth Band, which found success in the 1970s. The original members occasionally reunited for special performances in the 1980s and beyond. The Shadows. The Shadows were a popular British instrumental rock group that gained fame in the late 1950s and early 1960s. They are best known as the backing band for Cliff Richard, but they also had a successful career on their own. The group achieved great success, with 4 #1 EPs and several hit singles, including the iconic instrumental Apache, which topped the UK charts for 5 weeks. The Shadows were pioneers of the instrumental rock genre, influencing guitarists worldwide. Their unique sound was built on Fender guitars and Vox amplifiers. The band eventually switched to Burns guitars in the mid-1960s. Although they started as Cliff Richard's band, they became stars in their own right, scoring hits like Kon-Tiki and Wonderful Land. They also recorded vocal songs such as Don't Make My Baby Blue, which made it into the UK top 10. The Shadows' influence extended beyond the UK. They are considered by many to be one of the most successful and influential British bands of the pre-Beatles era. Their legacy continues to inspire musicians today. Mercy, an American pop group from Florida, made a big splash in 1969 with their hit single, Love Can Make You Happy. Written by Jack Sigler Jr., the song soared to #2 on the U.S. Billboard Hot 100 and Adult Contemporary charts. Released in April 1969, it quickly became a hit, selling over 1 million copies by July and earning a gold record from the RIAA. However, the band didn't officially receive the award until October 2009. Love Can Make You Happy was first released on the small Sundi record label and even appeared in the movie Fireball Jungle. As the song climbed the charts, the group released an album also titled Love Can Make You Happy. However, the album featured several songs not recorded by the original members of Mercy. The song was later re-recorded by the band under Warner Brothers with new members and became part of their Love Can Make You Happy album. This song reached number 38 on the Billboard 200 chart. Mercy's only other charting hit was Forever, which peaked at number 79. Despite their brief moment of stardom, Mercy continued to tour with Sigler, the original lead vocalist. In 2009, they released a new EP on iTunes, showing their music still resonates with fans today. The Circle. The Circle was a pop-rock band from the 1960s that briefly captured the spotlight, thanks to their catchy song Red Rubber Ball. Formed on the East Coast, the band originally went by the name The Rondells, but changed it to The Circle in 1966, after a suggestion from John Lennon. The group's music was known for its smooth vocal harmonies and upbeat melodies. Their biggest hit, Red Rubber Ball, co-written by Paul Simon, reached number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. The song sold over 1 million copies, earning a gold record. In 1966, The Circle also had the honor of opening for the Beatles during their U.S. tour, which helped boost their popularity. Unfortunately, despite their early success, the band struggled with follow-up hits. They released another song, Turn Down Day, which made it to number 16, but they disbanded in 1968. Afterward, members pursued different careers, including jingle writing and law. In 2016, The Circle reunited for the first time in decades, performing live shows and even releasing a new album. The group continues to play today, proving that their music still resonates with fans who remember their brief but shining moment in the 1960s music scene. The Left Bank. The Left Bank made waves in the 1960s with their unique Baroque pop sound, blending classical influences with rock music. Their music stood out thanks to lush orchestral arrangements and Martin's expressive, soaring vocals. The band hit it big with their first single, Walk Away Renee, which reached number 5 on the Billboard charts in 1966. Their follow-up, Pretty Ballerina, also did well, charting at number 15 in 1967. Despite their early success, the band struggled with internal conflicts and poor management. This eventually led to their breakup in 1969. Although they briefly reunited in the 1970s, they never recaptured their earlier success. However, their music continued to influence artists like Alice Cooper and Belle and Sebastian. The Left Bank's legacy lives on through their beautiful songs. One of those, Walk Away Renee, remains a classic hit that continues to captivate listeners today. Despite their short-lived career, the Left Bank's Baroque pop sound remains a unique and cherished part of 60s music history. The Seeds. The Seeds blended raw garage rock with psychedelic sounds. Formed in 1965, the group was led by Sky Saxon, who had already been involved in other musical projects like the Amoeba. Saxon moved to Los Angeles and, after placing an ad for a keyboard player, brought in Daryl Hooper to complete the band. With Jan Savage on guitar and Rick Andridge on drums, they began rehearsing in Saxon's Malibu garage. The band's first big hit was Can't Seem to Make You Mine, which quickly gained attention in Southern California. In 1966, they released another hit, Pushin' Too Hard, which climbed the national charts and cemented their place in rock history. Their first 2 albums, The Seeds and A Web of Sound, became classics of garage music. The band's music evolved over the years, with the release of their third album, Future, in 1967. This album introduced a more psychedelic style and is still remembered today as a landmark in the genre. Though The Seeds never had another major hit, their influence can be heard in the work of bands like Iggy Pop and the Smashing Pumpkins. The Seeds' legacy lives on as one of the key players in the development of garage rock and psychedelia. Classics 4. The Classics 4 is a band that became famous for their smooth blend of pop and jazz, with hits like Spooky, Stormy, and Traces. They were formed in Jacksonville, Florida in 1965 by Dennis Yost, who had previously been part of a group called The Echoes. The band initially started as a cover group named The Classics, with Yost playing drums standing up. This earned him the nickname Stand-Up Drummer. Their big break came when they were discovered performing in Daytona Beach by talent agent Alan Diggs. After relocating to Atlanta, they signed with Capitol Records and released their debut single, Pollyanna. However, they had to change their name to Classics 4 because another band had already used the name. Their song Spooky, which reached number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1968, became one of their biggest hits. They also had success with Stormy and Traces, both of which made it to the top 10. The band went through several lineup changes, and by the 1970s they faced a decline in popularity. After the group disbanded in 1975, Dennis Yost continued performing under different names and even formed a new version of the band in the 2000s. The Classics 4 were inducted into the Georgia Music Hall of Fame in 1993, cementing their place in music history. 4 Jacks and a Jill. Have you ever heard of the South African band 4 Jacks and a Jill? They made a huge impact worldwide in the 1960s, especially with their hit song Master Jack. Originally formed in 1964 as the Nevadas, the band made history as the first group in South Africa to wear their hair long. This, of course, set them apart from the typical look of the time. They later changed their name to the Zombies, but after adding lead singer Glennis Lynn, they became 4 Jacks and a Jill. In 1968, they released Master Jack, which hit number 18 on the Billboard Hot 100 and reached number 3 on the Adult Contemporary chart. It was a big success internationally, topping the charts in South Africa, Canada, Australia, and more. Although 4 Jacks and a Jill didn't have another hit in the U.S. after Master Jack, they continued to release successful songs in South Africa. Over the years, they recorded albums for various South African charities, leaving a lasting legacy with their music and educational contributions. The Frost. The Frost was a rock band that formed in 1968 from the remains of the group The Bossmen. Dick Wagner, who had been rejected from the band Blood, Sweat and Tears, decided to fully dedicate himself to The Frost. The band's first big performance was at Meadowbrook Theater. There they played in front of 10,000 people alongside famous bands like MC5 and the Stooges. However, The Frost stood out as a highlight of the event. With their growing popularity, record companies soon took notice. The Frost signed with Vanguard Records and released 3 albums: Frost Music, Rock and Roll Music, and Through the Eyes of Love. They were one of the top bands in the Detroit area during the late 1960s and early 1970s. However, the band's national success was limited. Poor album cover art and weak promotion by Vanguard led to a lack of exposure outside the Midwest. This may have contributed to their not achieving the same level of fame as other Michigan bands like Bob Seger, Ted Nugent, and Grand Funk Railroad. Despite their challenges, the Frost continued to reunite for concerts over the years, especially in Michigan. In 2008, the Frost was inducted into the Michigan Rock and Roll Legends Hall of Fame. Jay and the Americans. Jay and the Americans were originally called the Harbor Lights. They were discovered while performing at New York University. The band's first hit came in 1962 with the song She Cried, which reached number 5 on the Billboard charts. However, the group's lineup changed when lead singer Jay Traynor left and was replaced by Jay Black, whose real name was David Blatt. With Black as the lead, the band went on to have even more success with hits like Come a Little Bit Closer, 1964, which hit number 3, and Cara Mia, 1965, which peaked at number 4. Despite their popularity in the 1960s, the band split in 1973. Most members went on to solo careers, but Jay Black continued performing under the name Jay and the Americans with different musicians. In 2001, the band was featured in the PBS special Rock, Rhythm and Doo-Wop. In the 1980s, Jay and the Americans' hit Cara Mia went to number 1 in the Netherlands when it was re-released. The band was inducted into the Vocal Group Hall of Fame in 2002. Although the band split up, their music remains loved by fans. Their legacy lives on through the various reunion performances and re-releases of their songs. The Fortunes. The Fortunes were a British harmony beat group that made waves in the 1960s with their catchy pop hits. Formed in 1961 in Birmingham, the band initially gained fame with their hit You've Got Your Troubles in 1965. The song reached the top 10 in the UK, Canada, and the US. Their success didn't stop there, as they followed up with other popular songs like Here It Comes Again and This Golden Ring. These songs helped solidify their place in pop history. Originally, the Fortunes began as a vocal group backed by the Cliftones, but after some lineup changes and a few early misses, they hit it big with You've Got Your Troubles. In 1970, they continued to chart with songs like Storm in a Teacup and Freedom Come, Freedom Go, which were popular worldwide. The band faced challenges after the 1960s, including lineup changes and unsuccessful singles. However, they remained active in music, even recording commercials like the famous Coca-Cola jingle It's the Real Thing. In the 1980s, the Fortunes earned a gold disc, and in the 2000s, they kept their legacy alive by touring and releasing new music. Even into the 2020s, the band continues to perform, charting with new releases and joining 1960s-themed tours. Their lasting popularity proves just how timeless their music truly is. The 1960s gave us so many incredible songs, and while some bands may have faded from the spotlight, their music still resonates today. If you enjoyed discovering these hidden gems, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more cool music facts from the past. Thanks for watching.